Hey everyone, welcome. Great to see you all here today on this very challenging day. I was on the bubble about canceling this meeting because I just didn't want to do it, but I'm really glad I came and I'm glad you're here. So let's all be together for this. If you're watching this later, you won't know what I'm talking about. It is the day after the American election of 2024. It is throwing me for a loop, and I'm sure it is a lot of you. And the thing I want to bring up right at the beginning here, and I want to offer to you is this concept that came to me in the very first cohort of what became the Creative Focus Workshop. It wasn't called that then. It was just a little seven day email challenge that I put together. And Alexander Chi was in it, who is an amazing writer who's also been um, on the Autonomous Creative podcast and did an amazing episode. So if you saw that, you know what I'm talking about. He's an incredible person and thinker. Alexander sort of reflected back to me what we were doing in this group by saying, in terms of what he was learning and what he was doing, that self care is a productivity tool. This is before I started questioning the whole concept of productivity as an end goal, because productivity is all about cramming more stuff into the same amount of time and getting ultra efficient and all that stuff. So I was still using that terminology. And in some ways, that phrase, which really stuck with me, was the initiation of so much development on my part, personal development, but also development of the curriculum that I created for the Creative Focus Workshop. There's so much focus now in everything I do on making sure that you are paying attention to yourself as a human, um, as the person who's actually doing the things that you want to be doing. I woke up this morning at like way too early. I was just too anxious to go back to sleep. And I'm not an anxious person. Like it's not an experience I have very often. And I see in the chat, Liz is here. Hi, Liz. Nice to see you. She says workaholism is one of my coping mechanisms. So I appreciate it. Well, it is also one of my coping mechanisms, but I really just felt like I have a full list today. I have a lot of stuff I want to do, a lot of things I'm actually kind of excited about working on in general. But I thought this just feels so wrong to me to just get up and just sit down at my desk like a normal day. So instead, I went downstairs and saw my kids before they go to school because often I don't. They are teenagers and they go to high school on their own, and so like I sleep. They go to school. So I saw them this morning, which was nice. And then I made a batch of kombucha, which I needed to do, and that takes, 45 minutes or something to do. And then I went out in the garden and I harvested a huge basket of tomatoes because we're still getting enormous amounts of tomatoes because it's so hot and dry. So that was nice. And then I don't talk about this very much, but I've gotten really obsessed with pottery lately. So I have a pot that I was working on that I brought home from the studio that I'm doing like some carving on to get it glazed or whatever. And then I was really tired, so I took a nap. And now here I am. So that was a very full morning, but it was like all of these things that make me happy. And oh, I also read a magazine article from a month-old magazine that did not know the news. So that was good too. Like on paper, magazine article, no phone. I know myself and I know that using my hands for stuff is something that is a meditative process. Even though I don't really meditate, like that's where I kind of get there. Even though it's, what I'm doing is quote unquote work, gardening is work. It's using a different part of my brain and it's the part that I needed to get there. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Like sometimes it's phone a friend, right? But like I didn't want to have a conversation. I just wanted to, disengage from inputs. I talk about this in the Creative Focus Workshop, this idea of templates for your days. And having alternate templates for days that are not normal, that you have a day that's like your regular day, and then you have a template for a day that's not a regular day. And often I talk about it in terms of a couple of things. Either you have like work schedules that are shifting. So, there's days when you teach, days when you don't teach, or like childcare schedules where you have childcare for 2 days a week and you don't otherwise. Or, and this is what comes up unexpectedly, is a lot of people in this community have chronic illness of various kinds, um, mental health challenges, and those kinds of things can pop up unexpectedly. And if you think about it when you're not in the middle of that and think, what do I need on a day like that? You can design a day for yourself or even a half of a day or a couple hours like I just did, ad hoc, that are based around what can bring you back and recenter you. So, what I want to suggest to you here is we're going to take 5 minutes and I want you to journal about what kinds of activities can calm and center you when you need it. All the things I did this morning were free, and they were all accessible to me. First, just think about in general, like, what are the things? And then start to think about how you could design a template for a day when you're like having a little bit of a freak out, what you can do in a 5-minute break, what could you do with 30 minutes, and what could you do with 2 hours? I want to make it possible for you to think big and do kind of crazy things and pull stuff off and be ambitious, but to do it in full acknowledgement of who you are as a human and that there's ups and downs and stuff you have to deal with. And when you try to suppress those things or set them aside, that's when things really, really go off the rails.